We go. Hit it. Good morning, everybody. Was it recording before? Hang on a second here.
Oh, it's okay. No, it wasn't recording before.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Leviticus 15. I call this the X-rated chapter. The X-rated chapter. The uncleanness of man as it starts out. Now, right off the top, I'm gonna say something here. There are three different trains of thought as to what the meaning of this issue of a man is. And I'll say that the actual chapter itself, when read properly, when you go to the Hebrew words that are used and you look at the whole chapter and not just piece by piece, it explains itself.
Yeah, chapter 15. This chapter is loaded, 15. When I was studying it, you're totally correct. So,
yeah, well,
everybody that listens
it talks about, well, let's get into it here. The uncleanness of men, verse 1. And the Lord spake unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, Speak unto the children of Israel, and say unto them, When any man hath a running issue out of his flesh, because of his issue, he is unclean.
Wow.
And this shall be his uncleanness in his issue, whether his flesh is run with his issue, or his flesh be stopped from his issue, it is uncleanness. Now, right there, first of all, this issue, it is an issue. It means a discharge is what it means. When you look at it, when you look at the wording that's used, a running issue, hath a running issue. So issue is a discharge. The running, it says a running, the word that's used in Hebrew is zub. And that means to flow, but it means to gush. And if you look in other places in the Bible, such as Isaiah 48, the last verse, second to last verse, verse 21, and when they were in the desert, and it's talking about when he led them through the deserts, he caused the waters to flow out of the rock for them. He clave the rock also, and the waters gushed out. So this gushing is not like an ooze or just a light flow. It is a gushing out. It is a rushing upon. And that word is the word zub. It's the same word. So bottom line is, when used in context, when you see it in context, it is a gushing out of. And why would it say right after in the same chapter in Leviticus that it says whether his flesh is running, or that running, that gush, or after when it's stopped up? Why would it mention that right away? I believe my view, my understanding is it's something that happens intermittently. It's not something that is a constant thing that would be given as to some kind of a form of a disease, or let's say an infection, such as a urinary infection, a venereal disease, or any of that, which many guys are saying that that's what it means. Well, I don't see it that way. And especially because when you go deeper into the chapter, it talks about the seed of copulation, the seed of God. I mean, the seed of a man's copulation that comes from God. And basically, it's, if you take the whole thing all together, it's talking about that gush that comes out of a man. And there's a lot is spoken about. It talks about you have to go and make atonement for your sin. Now, that's something, a whole other subject, that why would this be sin if God said, go forth and be fruitful. And, and God, said, when a man leaves his parents, he goes with a woman and they become twain, and twain becomes one in the flesh. And so it's from God. It's not something that should be a sin. Well, what would be the sin? What would be the sin? The sin might be the thoughts that brought forth that gush, that discharge. Maybe they were unclean thoughts. And as far as, the wonderful thing about this, the whole Bible is like that. It gives you all kinds of things as to what is healthy and what is unhealthy. Now, we know that anything that is alive and then dies eventually starts attracting bacteria and can cause sickness and health issues. Well, it talks about the cleanliness of a woman after, well, her blood is flowing, and that blood is now becoming dead blood. It's we know when we're supposed to sacrifice an animal or whatever, you're supposed to drain the blood out of it. The blood is not something, you're not supposed to eat an animal that was strangled, right? This blood becomes something that can be detrimental to your health if it's left lying around. Same thing with this emission, this discharge from a man. If it's left uncleaned, well, then it can cause health issues. It is something that that if it was any part of a living life, that when it dies, it starts attracting things like bacteria and stuff. So that's where, what I look at as the possibility of what it is when it's like, a sin, and when it is why we would be unclean in something that God said, go forth and be fruitful, and it's from God. It's because it's the aftermath of it's death, it's something that's no longer living. It's something that can attract only death, right? So here, we're going to keep on going. And this shall be his uncleanness in this issue, whether his flesh is run with his issue or his flesh be stopped. So again, that gushing and how it stopped, it is still uncleanness. Every bed whereon he lieth that hath the issue is unclean. And everything whereupon he sitteth shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. Now you got to remember something also. If it is indeed, and I'm not saying it is 100%, but it really lends to that belief that the idea of what the man was thinking to cause him, because here, I'll say it outright. Since I've come to Christ and I stopped looking at women, I haven't had anything like a wet dream. Forget it. No, that's, it don't happen. So what is it that would cause a man to have this discharge? It has to, it has to be there in his thoughts. It doesn't just happen just like that. I mean, everybody knows that. Every man knows, I don't know, women wouldn't know this. Every man knows that when you have this discharge while you're dreaming, it's because you were dreaming unclean things, right? So once again, whosoever shall touch his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. So now, why until the even? Because you want that remembrance. We know, like it says in Hebrews 10, that all the sacrifices, all the cleaning you do, all whatever you do is only a remembrance of sin, right? A foreshadow of the good things to come, a remembrance of sin. So here, when it says talking about until the even, it's I see it as being a certain length of time. That length of time is made for us to think and to ponder upon our sins and to know. And listen to what it says. It talks about how it has to take 7 days. So we're going to get into that. Hang on now. And whoever so touches his bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And he that sitteth on anything whereon he sat on that hath the issue shall wash his clothes. So anything that touches the issue, this discharge, is considered unclean. They have to wash your clothes. Just like anything that is, like it even says not to touch carcasses of certain animals, right? The ones that are like, what's the word? The ones that eat other animals when they're dead. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. An animal that eats another animal, a scavenger. So, we're not supposed to, they were not supposed to touch scavengers even, not touch them. They would be unclean after. So all this has to do with being dead and unclean things. So once again, he that toucheth the flesh of him that hath the issue shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And if he that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, and now this one here is like, it's pretty wild. The guy spits on you, I don't think it's talking about the issue itself. I'm talking, it's when you look it up, it really means if he spits on you. So, and you become unclean. He that hath the issue spit upon him that is clean, then he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And what saddle soever he rideth upon that hath the issue shall be unclean. And whosoever touches anything that was under him shall be unclean until the even. And he that beareth any of those things shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And whomsoever he toucheth that hath the issue hath not rinsed his hands of water, he shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water and be unclean until the even. And the vessel of earth that he toucheth, and this is vessel of earth is a clay pot, and the vessel of earth that he toucheth, which hath the issue, shall be broken. It tells you to break the thing if it had the issue in it. I don't know why it would, but for whatever reason, but it should be broken. And every vessel of wood shall be rinsed in water. Now it's talking again about the cleansing of men. And when he that hath an issue is cleansed of his issue, then he shall number to himself 7 days for his cleansing. So why 7 days? Because I truly believe that's the 7 days is for his remembrance, that he should remember what he thought of, whatever got him into this condition, that he should remember it for 7 days. And wash his clothes and bathe his flesh in running water, and it shall be clean. And on the 8th day he shall take to him 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and come before the Lord unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and give them to the priest. And the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering and one for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him before the Lord for his issue. Well, here it is. It shows you that he's atoning for his sin. What's the sin? What is the sin? To me, it can't be anything. It's the actual discharge is part of what God made us in the flesh. And we know our flesh is filthy to begin with. We are, we are not, this is our fallen nature. We know that no flesh can ever see the Father and live. But that being said, what would be the sin that would make him have to go and take a sacrifice to the Lord to atone for his sin? Well, I kind of look to it as being whatever his thoughts were to get him into that condition. I can't see anything else that would be sin unto the Lord but the thoughts. Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lusting eyes, you've already committed adultery with her. So if you're sinning, there is sin of actual doing so, or there's sin if you're entertaining those ideas in your mind. Now, we know that the devil will come in and try and make us believe that many times we are sinning in our own minds because he's putting those thoughts there. It's whether you entertain the thought or not, okay? You could just turn around and capture that thought and say, no, sorry, Satan, not today. That is not my thought. Is you putting that thought there. And then, and often I am, the Satan's kingdom tries to tempt me with women and with lust. And I just turn around and I say, sorry, I'm a eunuch for the Lord. And I'm telling you, they go, they go. They don't stick around and keep bothering me. No, those days are over, demons. Those days are over. I am now a eunuch for the Lord. Okay. So moving on here. And talking about again, and the priest shall offer them, one for a sin offering, the other for a burnt offering, and the priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord for his issue. Now here we go, verse 16. And if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash his flesh in water and be unclean until the evening. So it's kind of repeating, but it's saying exactly what that issue is now. I don't believe it's any kind of an oozing or flow from an infection. I believe that what was mentioned in the beginning, because it says it comes out in a gush and it stops. And then here it's talking about the seed of copulation. I believe that that's all what this is about. And that it's not anything to do with any kind of sickness, disease, any kind of urinal infection, any kind of venereal disease. I've heard, I read it in one of the commentaries, they say gonorrhea, which actually, makes a little bit of sense, but not really when you look at the chapter as a whole. But then it says hemorrhoids. Well, where did they come up with that one? I don't know. I have no idea where they can come. Hemorrhoids, that's not the same kind of discharge of a man. But anyway, so that being said, once again, verse 16, if any man's seed of copulation go out from him, then he shall wash all his flesh in water and be unclean until the even. And every garment and every skin whereon the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. The woman also, with whom the man shall lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the even. Now, I want to say something here, and this is kind of like going a little bit off and making a left turn. But as much as God says, go forth and be fruitful. So God would not say go forth and be fruitful, in sin, although, we are supposedly born of sin. But the thing is, he would not say go forth and be fruitful, go forth in sin. That the actual, copulation for children is not sin in itself. It is possibly what is, how it's approached. And I'll say this, the Jews, the real religious Jews, they really approach it in a strange way, that they don't usually sleep together. And this is just a little information for your enjoyment. They don't sleep together. And what happens is, and I don't know if you've ever seen most of these Orthodox Jews, they wear hats that look like cowboy hats and then these long coats. And I actually call them sometimes the cowboys, and Lord forgive me for making fun, but I can't help it sometimes. But I call them the cowboys, and they take their hats when they come home. If the man wants to be with the woman that night, he takes his hat and he throws it on her bed. And if she doesn't want, she's, for whatever reason, she takes his hat and throws it back on his bed. So I thought I found that, kind of humorous in the way it came to the point of where they really don't interact sexually too much with one another. Whereas God said, like I said, God said, go forth and be fruitful. So, and that's actually why you see a lot of families of, number one, Christians, true believers, and then Orthodox Jews. They have many children many times, because that's, that is allowed. It's allowed. You're allowed to be fruitful. God says, go forth and be fruitful. It's a blessing, right? So once again, and every garment, every skin whereon the seed of copulation shall be washed with water and be unclean until the even. The woman also with the man whom shall the man lie with seed of copulation, they shall both bathe themselves in water and be unclean until the evening. And now it comes into the uncleanness of a woman. If a woman have an issue, and that we know is the menstrual cycle, right? Someone's trying to get in there. And if a man have an issue and if a woman have an issue and her issue in her flesh be blood, and we know that, a woman can have another issue, a natural kind of a slight discharge from her womanhood, and it's not considered. It doesn't say anything here about being unclean. But if it's blood, remember, the blood has to be drained out of an animal. The life is in the blood. Now, when the blood dies, everything else dies, right? So it's gonna, dead blood will be attracting disease. We know that. So that would be one of the reasons that I could see why her issue of blood would be unclean. So listen to what it says. If a woman have an issue and her issue in her flesh be blood, she shall put her she shall be put apart 7 days, and whosoever toucheth her shall be unclean until the even. And everything that she lieth upon in her separation shall be unclean, meaning a bed or a couch or whatever. And everything that she sitteth upon shall be unclean. And whosoever toucheth her bed shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And whosoever toucheth anything that she sat upon shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. And if it be on her bed or on anything wherein she sitteth, when he toucheth it, he shall be unclean until the even. And if any man lie with her at all, and her flowers be upon him, he shall be unclean 7 days, and all the bed whereon he lieth shall be unclean. And if a woman have an issue of her blood many days out of the time of her separation, or if it run beyond the time of her separation, all the days of her issue of her uncleanness shall be as the days of her separation, she shall be unclean. So if they went on longer, then the days of uncleanness would be longer. So, and I imagine that the cleansing period, well, we'll see in a second. Hang on. I would think that it would still remain the same, but overall, the whole length of time would become longer. Every bread whereon she lieth all the days of her issue shall be unto her as the bed of her separation, and whatsoever she sitteth upon shall be unclean as the uncleanness of her separation. And whosoever touches these things shall be unclean, and shall wash his clothes and bathe himself in water, and be unclean until the even. But if she be cleansed of her issue, then she shall number to herself, there it is, 7 days. After that, she shall be clean. So the cleansing period is still the same. And as now, going back to what I said about the man, his thoughts may be causing his issue and becoming unclean. The woman has the issue regardless of whatever her thoughts were, right? Once a month, in good health, a woman will have this issue. Well, number one, it has to do with hygiene and cleanliness. Anything that blood, that blood comes out of, that's dead blood, should be, gotten rid of, right? But as far as the woman goes, it might also be her remembrance on what she did. Remember where the original blessing, that curse that became a blessing on the woman, was that she would carry forth the birth, and this might and that she was the one who would carry the child and travail in birth and all that. Well, this might be remembrance towards that. I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying. I just see it as a possibility that that the woman's guaranteed flow every month might be remembrance as to the original sin, the rebellion against God. And on the 8th day, she shall take unto her 2 turtles or 2 young pigeons, and bring them unto the priest to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And the priest shall offer the one for sin offering, the other for a burnt offering. And the priest shall make an atonement for her before the Lord for the issue of her uncleanness. Then shall ye separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that did not die in their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. Now realize something, what it's saying here, that going to the Lord unclean, you're defiling the tabernacle. That in those days, I'm talking now. The defiling of our tabernacle now is a whole different thing. Anything we do, whether it's smoking cigarettes, eating too much, drinking, all these things, we're defiling our tabernacle. We're defiling it when it comes to the lusts of the flesh. We're defiling it when we adhere to fleshly desires, especially regarding sexual desires. These are things that defile us in front of the Lord, right? They're defiling the tabernacle of the Lord, which is the tabernacle of the Holy Spirit, which is our body, right? So once again, thus you shall separate the children of Israel from their uncleanness, that they die not in their uncleanness, when they defile my tabernacle that is among them. This is the law of him that hath an issue, and of those whose seed goeth from them, and is defiled therein, and of her that is sick of her flowers, and of him that hath an issue of the man, and of the woman, and of him that lieth with her that is unclean. So once again, I say, there are, what is the actual sins? Like I said, Jesus said, if you look at a woman with lustful eyes, that you have already committed adultery with her. Well, as much as the physical part of defiling our bodies is spoke about here, it's also the mental part. Understand that there had to be a thought behind that issue of the flesh per se, as it says pretty much throughout this chapter, doesn't it? It talks about the seat of copulation. It talks about all this stuff, So all this to say that it is as much in our minds as it is the defiling of our bodies in the flesh. And I don't think I can take this much further. This is quite the chapter, and as I said, I call it the X-rated chapter because it has to deal with all these things that are not spoken about. And I'll tell you what, I'm looking forward to when we get into Deuteronomy, because it starts talking about how all these things come into our thoughts, what we're doing, what we're allowing into our thoughts the way that we do. So God bless everybody. I hope you enjoyed this, and that's it. God bless. Amen.